Shane, the Chiefs, of course, last year went 15-2. Not only won the division, but won the number one seed in the AFC. Famously, infamously, last year, that was a product of so many tight games, 8 one-score games. Every single one-score game went their way. It was something that people said couldn't continue. It did continue the whole way through the season. The Super Bowl, of course, was far from a one-score game. It turns out the best way to beat the Chiefs is to just absolutely pile on. Don't let them hang in a one-score game. The stats people, the analytics nerds will tell you that this is one of the most volatile stats in football. One-score games even themselves out, and if you won all of your one-score games last year, chances are you're not going to win nearly as many of those this year. I suppose, though, the question with the Chiefs is how much the return from injury of, well, Rashee Rice, should he escape lengthy suspension? And that's a big question in and of itself. Hollywood Brown, a receiver core that, if fit, looks like it could provide the boost that Patrick Mahomes and the offense didn't really have when they needed it last year, and yet they still managed to go 15-2. You can make the case that the Chiefs are going to come back to the pack, which is good news for the Broncos we've just talked about, and good news from the Chargers and the Raiders too. You can equally make the case that they may come back without having had to do an awful lot in the off season with a much better team.
Yeah, it's an unusual trying to read the Chiefs, because you could make a very solid argument that out of the 15 games they won last year, because of things like, as you say, the way the one score games fall, the fact that they haven't made huge strides on their roster. Yes, they've added on the offensive line, Josh Sims coming in the draft, and Jalen Moore coming in as well, which I think it was, as we saw at the Super Bowl, offensive line was an area that definitely needed to improve on. But, evaluating the Chiefs and what they're able to do in the regular season and evaluating the Chiefs and what they'll be able to do by the time we get to the playoffs are two different questions. Are we expecting a potentially 10 or 11 win season from the Chiefs this year? I think that's very possible. It's based purely on the standard of player and just the kind of waiting for this to level out, because for 2 seasons now I've been sitting here crying, be like, how did Chiefs get away with so many of these victories throughout the regular season? Sometimes it's referees, sometimes it's luck, sometimes it's just the magic of Mahomes, which of course is still going to be a major factor in so many games this year. And Andy Reid, of course, is still there in the division, which this year, by the way, has to be one of the greatest coaching divisions in history across all 4 teams. But you can't sit back, and especially in a world where Travis Kelce still going to keep declining. We're not quite sure what we're going to get from Rashee Rice. We're not quite sure what we're going to get from the Chiefs running game. We're not quite sure what we're going to get from the wide receivers. The offensive line, yes, has been bolstered, and I reckon that'll be better this year, which will certainly help Patrick Mahomes, what he's able to do. But even on defense, if Chris Jones is not as dominant, we know how big of a piece he is to that defense. And yes, Steve Spags will definitely have a plan for so many great situations. But throughout the regular season, can you see more teams find a way to pick them off? I think absolutely. And I think they are in real jeopardy of being able to lose the NFC West crown this year. If we're sitting here in January and February previewing the playoffs, I will still be giving them a very fighting chance, because when it comes to that part of the year, I imagine that Andy Reid will find ways to unlock more from his squad. But in terms of what we can expect from the regular season, there's a little bit of a case of standing still is moving backwards when it comes to a lot of the parts of this roster, and a lot of the parts of just the general, I think they haven't pressed the reset button properly in Kansas City, because they keep getting the Super Bowls. And I think, especially once we see Kelce drop off, his quality drop off, which is due to happen at some point, that reset button will need to be pressed at some point in the future. And this might be that year that the Chiefs realize that they might need a bit of a well, not rebuild, but this is the year where, their Super Bowl run, or at least this era of Super Bowl runs, might need a bit of a refresh.
Kieran O'Donovan, we've seen with dynasties in other sports, when they come to an end, one of the things that hastens their demise, if that's the way you're thinking about the Chiefs, is the aura of invincibility is gone. And that thing that actually does make a meaningful difference in one-score games, whether you're the Limerick Hurlers or whether you're Tiger Woods in the red shirt on the Sunday of a major. You see, and we saw people quake at the sight of those, magnificent sporting titans when they were in full flight. The way the Chiefs were undressed in the Super Bowl, though, and we talked about it a lot in the offseason, particularly as far as the Bills and the Ravens are concerned, what the Eagles did to the Chiefs really made it look like that bell has been rung, and people are saying the Chiefs are vulnerable, they're gettable, they can be beaten. No way should this team be winning 15 games in 25-26.
Yeah, and I just echo a lot of the points that Shane made, really, and yourself, in terms of one-score games, they really pertain to that. I mean, and I'm not saying that every one-score game was luck, but you can't. There was an element of luck to some of the finishes of those games last year, and you can only ride your luck for so long. I would be very cautious in writing the obituary of the Chiefs, because I think we were about 10 years listening to people write off the Patriots dynasty, and then we watched them contend 5 and win 3 more. They were talking about Tom Brady being washed in 2014. I'm not saying that this is that the Chiefs goose is cooked, but I certainly think that this could be a down year. Or I spoke about this with Sam Monson the other day from Check the Mic, and as he said, it may not be a down year, but it might be a year where the rest catch up. And there's not a lot, again, as Shane alluded to suggest that the Chiefs have really made much of a leap this offseason. I mean, you talked about the Super Bowl. Mahomes was sacked 6 times in the Super Bowl. He was sacked 36 times in the regular season, which is the most ever. So a whole lot hinges on the addition of Josh Simmons at left tackle and what the O-line can do and how it can improve. You mentioned the uncertainty with the receivers. Hollywood Brown is nursing a lower leg injury. Again, you talk about Rashee Rice and his impending suspension, or what may come of that. You're looking at Xavier Worthy taking over and the number 1 position. One shining light, I think they're really talking up Jalen Royals, the rookie. But yeah, I'm not hearing, or I'm not seeing enough to say that the Chiefs have made enough progress in the offseason. And the other big question is Travis Kelce. Again, we're going to be asking ourselves until the season starts, was this a down year? Was it, can we expect a comeback year from Kelce? Was he affected by touring the world with Taylor Swift in the offseason last year? And can we expect a revitalized version of Travis Kelce? But that question won't be answered until 1, 2, 3 weeks into the season.
I got to say that I don't imagine that touring the world with Taylor Swift is going to be in any way damaging to my performance. I think that could only be a good thing in your life. I don't see how that's anything. That's actually a cheat for me if you're Travis Kelce. Kieran Boyle, if I'm looking at any team, my starting point is, do I trust the coach? Do I trust the quarterback? Like, in many ways, I'd kill to have the problems, and pretty much any other team in the NFL would kill to have the problems, quote unquote, that the Chiefs have. All they need to do is keep Mahomes clean, and the magic will happen.
Yeah, I mean, I might be going against the trend here a little bit, but I think the Chiefs are just reloading, and they're just coming back for another crack at it, and they're going to make at least the championship game anyway. We're quick to forget what happened with the Brady Super Bowl 4 years ago when Mahomes got humbled, and there was a lot of kind of licking the wounds after that Super Bowl. And what happened after that? Well, they came back and won 2 more Super Bowls after that. So it's very early. It's very premature to write off the Chiefs just yet. Yeah, they won a lot of close games, but I mean, this is a we talked about it in New Orleans a lot, and everybody was on the same kind of wavelength that the Chiefs were going to win, but they ended up losing. They've been humbled, kind of like they were in that Brady Super Bowl in 21. Now they're going to come back. Now they're reloaded. Offense, there's not a huge amount of weapons on offense, but primarily that defense is still intact. George Karlaftis just got paid. You got Chris Jones out there. Yeah, he's a little bit older, but he still got it. Mike Dana, Drew Tranquill, Nick Bolton, Leo Chenal. Now, the other thing to remember is the draft. Now, all of those players I just mentioned were 3rd, 4th, 5th, even 6th rounders. Like Leo Chenal, I think it was a 5th rounder. The Chiefs draft exceptionally well. So look out for Norman Lott, the defensive tackle that they got in the 2nd round. Look out for Ashton Galat, the edge they got in round 3. These are guys that are going to be developed over the next year or two, and it's just going to be a reload for the Chiefs. That's what they do. There's very little kind of downturns. And we've seen the wide receiver core. It's almost plug in. I mean, they had DeAndre Hopkins out there. If Rashee Rice, which we all expect he's going to miss some time, they're going to probably pick up a free agent that's out there and turn him into a reclamation project and not miss a beat. The big thing, like we mentioned earlier, Josh Simmons played phenomenal with Ohio State, protected that quarterback all season long, helped him get to the national championship game and win it. He's going to be a big difference for Mahomes. Now, we saw what happened with Joe Thuney, not just in the Super Bowl, but towards the end of the season. They kind of limped into the Super Bowl with him playing left tackle. And they had problems with Kingsley Suimata. He didn't work out either. The rest of the line I'm okay with, but that addition, they knew as well as everybody else watching that left tackle was an issue, and they addressed it. And I think he's going to be a big help for Mahomes this season, going to keep him upright. But we know Mahomes can scramble anyway, so it doesn't really matter who's playing left tackle. But I fully expect the Chiefs to just reload and just power through, despite the fact the schedule is pretty brutal. They don't play all that much on Sundays. They're going to be traveling the world and playing on Thanksgiving, Christmas Day, you name a holiday, they'll be playing on it, on every kind of streaming service, whether it's Netflix, YouTube, all of that stuff. So they're going to be, they're still going to, I still have them at least.
We've been here with them before as well, when they played
100%.
three games in 11 days or whatever it was, and people were saying, well, that's going to be too much, and they won all of them. I mean, they negotiate pressure and they negotiate the big games better than any other team does, which is why they are where they are. I wonder, do you think, Kieran, this is a little bit of Chiefs fatigue because they're there every year? We've kind of almost slept on the things that make them great. Like I hear people talk about Mahomes, and I think, have we forgotten how good this guy actually is? It doesn't matter what you put around him; he is that much better than everybody else. It's insane when you actually see it in the flesh. It's nuts. Yeah,
there's a tremendous amount of Chiefs fatigue. I mean, we saw it in New Orleans all week. People were, almost bummed that the Chiefs were back in there. But Mahomes is just reaching his prime. I think he's just turned 30. I mean, he may have another 10 years in his wheelhouse. And like I said, that defense is just stacked from top to bottom. They'll keep him in every game possible. So it's definitely premature to write off the Chiefs until they get embarrassed again on a major stage or in a primetime game, which that might happen this year. But it's still too early to write them off. And we'll get to the division winners later on, but I'm still high on the Chiefs.